On the field, off the field, sports talk, entertainment, and more. This is Sauce on the Side.
Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to episode 140 of the Sauce on the Side podcast. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Dre, joined by the man, the producer, Mr. Leighton Pip Shavantone.
The quarantine hit really hard this week, boys. This was the week it hit me. I was really tired of being inside.
And joining us throughout our quarantine adventure, we have Mr. Thomas R. Shackelford.
I feel like this has been my best week yet. My mustache trend is catching on. Sun's out, guns are out, tank tops and stashes everywhere.
There are tank tops and stashes everywhere. It seems like mustaches have been the new trend. Funny facial hair, in general, has been the new trend.
For any healthcare professional right now, a mustache is absolutely popping off.
Yeah, many people are just really, really bored. And what the fuck can I do? Well, I'll be inside at least till the end of May now, so...
You don't have to stay inside. You just have to stay away from large gatherings.
Okay, yeah, so who's going to see me? I'll just do this to my face.
Go walking. Exactly. Go on a walk. Go on a jog.
That's what I'm saying. Hey, you can't be in large groups, so I'll just cut my hair like an idiot and then walk around.
Dude, you need to go full Chuck Liddell. I got told I look like Chuck Liddell with my facial hair.
Who lied to you?
I'm not telling you that. But it has been confirmed that I do look like Chuck Liddell in the eyes of one person.
Why do people lie to you once you... Because I told the story earlier. Chick told me I was a 9. I've never been a 9 on anything my entire life. Another girl told me I looked like Burt Reynolds, which I took as more of a compliment than the 9.
No, that is a bigger compliment than the 9, because if you think about it, like, if you look like Burt Reynolds, you're at least a 10.
Oh, you mad you didn't say Steven Seagal?
No, because, Seagal, man, he ain't got no good facial hair.
But this week, I honestly think I'm on the same track as you, where this is the first week that the quarantine hit me hard. Yeah. Like the first couple weeks, I was like, this is cool, finally get to, do something other than watch sports with my life. But now I figure that's all I have now.
Yeah.
I am completely bored. I go for runs. I'm running longer distances than I ever have in my life because there's absolutely nothing else to do. It's terrible. And that's Mr. Shackelford taking pictures of him with his mustache.
Yeah, well,
No.
Well, Jake, I gave you a good movie to watch, but you didn't watch it. It's not a good movie, but you didn't watch it.
That kind of dovetails us into what we will be talking about today. We're obviously going to talk about what we've missed in sports. We have to talk about the commissioners with their phone call with Donald Trump, kind of envision what that looked like or sounded like. Give a little UFC 249 update. Talk a little bit about the most overrated, underrated people in sports history. We got a little tweets of the week. I think I have a tweet that'll absolutely blow your mind if you haven't seen it yet. And Mr. Shackelford and Leighton C. will dive into a Netflix original. Is it a Netflix original or is it?
No, it's not a Netflix original.
Because I like whenever I get to say that.
Yeah, it's not a Netflix original movie. It just, I don't know who made it, honestly, but it's a good movie.
It's a movie. Okay. And they're going to review The Platform is what the movie is called. So if you haven't watched it and you want to watch it and you want to follow along, that will be at the end of this show. So what we missed in this sports week, every single team would have played a baseball game at home. Yep. So they would have had their opening day already. We would have had the Final Four, which would have been Saturday. Today should have been the NCAA championship, being geared up for that. You'd have maybe made some money in your NCAA work pool, or you'd have been handing money over to the guy who wins every other year. Total bummer.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's terrible. Like I said, it really hit me this week. Because I was thinking about last night, I was sitting at home and I thought, you know what? Right now I could be watching Saturday Night Baseball or the Red Sox game yesterday during the day. But instead, I'm not.
No, and honestly...
all it is, I feel without sports, nothing to look forward to. So all it is running together for me now.
See, I used to always think that the NCAA tournament didn't last long enough. But without it actually playing out... it proves to me just how long the NCAA tournament actually is.
Oh,
because
yeah.
I feel like it was over a month ago we were talking about like gearing up for the tournament. Now the tournament's not here, and I feel like the tournament would have basically lasted this one tournament would have lasted my whole entire life.
Dude, it feels like it's been like 2 months, like 19 days or some shit.
I think we're up to 20 days. We've officially hit the 20-day mark, and I think that's where you hit a wall.
A lot of people it could get weird out there, fellas.
Wasn't the Rosenstrunk and Ngannou fight supposed to be this weekend?
Yeah, that's
That would have been
the only-
yesterday.
This past Saturday, or no, it would have been like Friday. I think it's the 28th is what they had. So, I guess that would have been last Saturday.
It would have been last week then.
Saturday, but then this weekend they had another one lined up, I believe, for like the 11th. My days are getting mixed up too. I'm having to look at my calendar to even see what day it is.
You know, and the weird thing is,
I'm still working. I still got to be at work this week.
That's the weird thing, because I thought Saturday was Sunday, and then yesterday, all Sunday, I thought it was Monday, and I still work. I still have a job to go to, so I couldn't imagine what it'd be like if I actually didn't have obligations. I think I'd be a mess.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Me too. And there was one, the 28th. We missed that one. The 11th would have been this weekend. We missed that one. And as far as there was a couple LFAs that we kind of ran over, but none of the other Bellator or One Championship had anything. Which boxing I don't follow a ton anyways to really know that schedule. Still, the heartbreaker to me is the NCAA tournament. That'll loom large over me for a long time. Which we should have added that into our stuff. NCAA comes out and says all winter sports do not get another year of eligibility.
Yes, actually, we can go ahead and discuss that right now,
Let's
because
do it.
we have a full docket.
But they said, to be fair, spring sports get another year as of now. Winter sports do not. And I've heard the argument, well, technically for wrestlers who it affects that I care about the most, they wrestled their entire season except for 3 days. As far as wrestling goes, that 3 days is the only thing that matters.
It's the only thing that matters.
The only thing. All the conferences and everything was done. They even have the brackets set up. Like, they legitimately do the brackets, give these kids one more year, or even in the summer when this opens up, just drop the 1 3-day tournament. It would have been easy, but instead, they put a dagger to the heart to a lot of these guys, and that's the end of their career.
Yeah, no, if you make Cale Sanderson tweet, you've really messed up.
I looked up. He hasn't tweeted since like 2016 or 18.
It was.
or
I think I ended up tweeting it out. I retweeted it. It was like 20 months since the last time that Cale Sanderson tweeted out, and he basically was saying, "Shame on you" to the NCAA that you take it away from those athletes. Now, I almost want to put an asterisk on this, because I feel like if you're a college basketball player, your season was already done. But like for the wrestlers, I feel like this was their season.
Well, in basketball, say they give them another year eligibility. How many of those kids go back to there anyways?
Very few.
Very few. Most of them go on if they're NBA ready, they go on to the NBA. If they're not, they'll take that extra year. But I'm betting 50, 60, 70% of those kids go on to the NBA, which you and Leighton know more about that than I do, those rates. But as far as wrestling goes, that's the end of the line.
It is it.
And now the Olympics got pushed back another year. If this continues on, maybe they skip this whole Olympic cycle. This very well, for you guys that don't know, most of those guys that wrestle in college, very few of them just started in high school. Most of them have been doing it since they were 4, 5, 6. We're talking...
None of them started in high school.
No, late bloomers, probably are 9, 10, 11, 12. After that, you don't make it to that top level. It's insurmountable odds. Most of those guys, that's quite literally their entire life's work that just ended right there.
Yeah, I'm definitely bummed about it. I think that they should have came out and said, hey, if you want the extra year of eligibility, it's there. You don't necessarily have to take it, because, what is the point of playing the season if you're not going to finish it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, at what point did they deem it, okay, if this thing would have hit in, let's say, the beginning of January, would they have went ahead and just given you the whole entire eligibility? At what week is the difference? And the most important week is wiped out, so at that point it doesn't matter.
Well, that's exactly it. I keep thinking about there's this one Iowa wrestler. I cannot think of his name. I think he was a runner-up last year. It's a heartbreaking story. Like, his wife is the director of wrestling operations or something at Iowa. He's married to her. She had a brother that wrestled in college a few states away, like Utah, something like that. When they were getting married, they wanted to surprise the family. They invited the brother to come to this party. The brother dies in an automobile accident on the way to their engagement party. He was a runner-up last year. I read this heartbreaking article. They say that, he's a runner-up. He comes back. His wife's just like, look, you're going to be an NCAA champ. You got one more year. You'll do it. Guess what?
No more.
No more.
No more.
Terrible, heartbreaking story for this guy. Been working his entire life to do this, wanting to do it for something more than himself, which is, it gives you chills to think about that story. And then 3 days, they can't give these kids 3 days over. I'm not even scratch giving them another year of eligibility. Tell them to hold off. July. Who would not want to see a special July tournament? Even with the NBA or with the NCAA
it's not like they would have
stuff.
to cancel any of the Olympians.
No. Olympics are off. Baseball's going to be cut in half. NBA will be done by then. Sports are going to be in a drought. Give basketball players, give these kids, I'm sure there's other winter sports, they could easily set something up for these guys. Would it be as good of a product as what we have gotten originally? Maybe not. Maybe some guys are burnt out by then. Injuries start to build up when you're training for an extra couple
In
months.
my eyes, it would have been a better product.
But for all those guys, and I guarantee for that Iowa kid, it would have been better off than just saying, hey, you're finishing your classes up online. Peace out.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. At least give us hope. At least say, hey, we're just going to postpone it. And you don't have to give us a date. Just set the date maybe a month in advance whenever everything dies down.
Exactly.
I absolutely agree with you. So really the only sports news that we have this week is that Donald Trump and all of the sports commissioners, this went all the way down. You had your major sports. You had MLB commissioner, NFL commissioner, MLB commissioner. You had NFL... all the way down to NASCAR. I think even they had golf. MLS, every single sport that you can think of, professional, NCAA was not included, they ended up meeting with Donald Trump. My first question to you guys, why do you think that they left the NCAA out to dry there?
It's a not-for-profit organization.
Not for profit?
Yeah.
My man Trump Dog ain't putting his hands in anything that don't have for profit at the end.
Technically it says not, and then it says for profit.
Yeah.
So technically,
Well, okay, for profit.
Yeah.
If it don't have for very much profit, my man's ain't getting involved.
Dana White was actually included on this call. I have a feeling that Dana White's actually at the White House for this call.
Yeah, there's a good chance he's just chilling out. He's like, "Look, man, we can do it. We can do it. I'm telling you, we can do it." It's
Yeah.
very big chances.
Now, my other question is, who do you think walked in there Dick swinging more? Roger Goodell or Dana White?
Dana.
Or do you think there's just like there's a known consensus that Roger Goodell is like the king commissioner case of the NFL? Or do you think every commissioner in there secretly like hates him a little bit because of that?
Goodell's got no BDE. Barstool made that clown shirt, which
took it all
filled stadiums and made he's got no BDE. He's a joke. There's no way. Dana White may have walked up and slapped him and just said, "I just want to let you know I'm the alpha dog here."
He probably called Roman the week before.
Mark Davis came and
BDE.
slapped him too. My man, the fat man.
No, I honestly, if you think about this, I think that Dana White had the most BDE in the room. You look at Goodell, I think this was kind of like a step on his pride and a step on his confidence. Mm-hmm. Because if you think back to, did you ever watch the Small Potatoes documentary?
Oh yeah.
No.
Did you ever watch this?
No.
So it was a 30 for 30, and it was basically whenever Donald Trump tried to get into the NFL, they barred him. They kept him from all the I guess it would be the owners of the team. He was trying to buy the Buffalo Bills at one time, a nice New York team that he could get his hands on for cheap.
Yeah.
Trump tried to buy the Buffalo Bills and the commissioners. So we're talking about 31 of the richest people in the United States, 31 of the smartest business guys in the United States did not want Donald Trump in with them to be a commissioner or to be an owner of an NFL team. And now Goodell had to go into a conference call where Donald Trump is actually the leader of the conference call. He is the man in the room. He is the guy who decides the fate of his sport. And it also runs down Donald Trump putting his hands in the USFL at one point. It's a very good documentary if you have to check it out.
Small Potatoes?
Small Potatoes.
Check it out.
But I think Goodell actually took a confidence hit this last week, having to listen to Donald Trump talk whenever he didn't want Donald Trump in his league at the
he
beginning.
bounced him.
Yeah.
It'd be a very weird conversation to have, though. And I wish I was a fly on the wall for that one.
It'd be like you breaking up with a chick and then, 15 years later, she's just a smoking hot babe and,
And she's your boss.
yeah, you got to go apply for a job under her and she's just sitting there at the interview like, hi, how are you doing?
Toast.
Toast,
You're toast.
for sure.
But I feel like that would be a weird conversation. But staying on Dana White, Shackford, you said that UFC, there's going to come out this week, talk about UFC 249. Dana White's supposed to be announcing anything. What do you expect? Because this is probably going to come in the next 24, 48 hours, hopefully.
Today.
It is coming out today.
Today. So
Okay.
we'll wrap this in with your tweets of the week here in a little bit, but he came out and said today they will announce the location of 249, the main event. He said absolutely Khabib's out because Khabib's
Absolutely.
stuck in Russia. We'll wrap that into the tweets of the week here in a minute. New main event, new location. I'm also seeing a little bit of buzz. They're saying that where it's a West Coast location, wherever the location is, they're going to have multiple events there. So they must have finally figured something out. Here's my guess. My guess is going to be Ferguson versus Gaethje, interim title, which sucks that we have another
Another
interim
one.
title.
More belts than a men's warehouse.
Yeah, nobody wants to just have a regular fist fight. That we all got to do it for a belt. Interim title. I think it's going to be at the Vegas, either the Apex Center or the PI. One of those two, because they have full-size rings. Whichever one they can do with the least amount of people in there. And I also kind of threw in co-mains. I was thinking that Rosenstrike and Ngannou.
Yes.
They're both on the West Coast training right now, I believe. They can be thrown into the mix there. I'm pretty sure Rosenstrike's down in Florida, but you can get him to the West Coast, and Ngannou's already on the West Coast. The other one I thought was Woodley has still been putting out that he signed a contract. He's ready to go. Anybody that wants to fight him, I'm going to say Woodley Covington. This is going to be total guess. I'm going to say Ferguson Gaethje, which isn't a total guess. That's a little bit of all the stuff I've been reading. Then you got Rosenstrike and Ngannou, which was already keyed up for last weekend, and they're probably already there. And then just
An inkling.
just a little. I'm going to go Covington, Woodley, and then the undercard they can fill in with. How cool would it be for our guy Max Roshkoff to get
He's
in there?
already there.
He's a Vegas guy. I think there's enough. Vegas has enough fighting gyms. They can pull together a really solid undercard there. You
Yes,
know,
I absolutely agree.
And at this point, man. I have total faith that they're gonna. All the fighters have been saying that they were tested before and after. By all accounts, the guys that fought in that Brazil card were really well taken care of. Even the UFC London, Dana White didn't go about spouting this off, but Scott Coker made this big deal about how he paid all the Bellator guys that one of their events got canceled. He paid every one of them. Well, now come to find out, so did the UFC. They paid a lot of those UFC London guys, at least a portion of their money, but he wasn't spouting off about it. So people just need to chillax on that. Uncle Dana's got us covered.
Uncle Dana does indeed have us covered. I think this is the first time that I've actually had faith in Dana White, to pull us together.
He's the perfect guy to do something like this.
Yeah, big friend of Trump. Trump also said that the country should be open before Easter. So you'd be able to go to Covington is also a big Trump guy. He said that he is the hero for all of us Americans, and he will fight at any time. So I actually really do like Covington to get on the card. I'm not saying that, I agree that Woodley will be the guy, but I would almost guarantee that Covington will be on this card in some capacity.
It'd be fun.
It would be fun. It'd be definitely a fun card.
I have some sport news.
What's some sports news?
The NFL announced the 2010 All-Decade team.
No kidding.
Yep. I'm going to rattle them off, and then if anybody know who left out, just say it, and if not, we can discuss them more in the future.
Okay, go ahead and read off the all-decade team.
All right. The 8 unanimous players. Start with the quarterbacks. Unanimous, Tom Brady. Other one, Aaron Rodgers. Wide receivers.
No Peyton Manning?
No Peyton Manning.
That's kind of a hit. Okay.
Wide receivers, Antonio Brown, Larry Fitzgerald, Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones.
I love that Antonio Brown still got thrown on there. That's awesome. Let me think. Is anybody else missing? No, I think that's about it.
I like it.
I think that's fair.
I don't know. I'm pretty much going to be done after
quarterback.
Shackelford says, "Where's Jerry Rice?"
Yeah, I'm looking for Randy. I'm looking for Jerry. Chris Carter. No.
Michael Irvin's not on there.
Yeah, you scratched your eyes. I wasn't sure.
No, I was just wondering who all these people are.
Okay, tight ends. Rob Gronkowski, Travis Kelce.
Fair.
Lock it in. Tackles, Jason Peters.
That one, hold on. The Kelce guy over Witten? Kelsey's career.
Oh, I forgot Witten.
Kelsey's only been there like 2 seasons.
Shackelford, I like this.
Witten's still playing, right? Like he retired and came back.
Active, yeah.
No, I actually agree. I think Jason Witten should be on there over Travis Kelce. I did not even think about that.
Too. There's one more in here that I definitely didn't think, but probably more that I'm not thinking about. Tackles, Jason Peters, Tyrone Smith, Joe Staley, Joe Thomas.
I was going to say if Joe Thomas isn't on there, that's a...
Joe Thomas was unanimous.
Should be.
Guards, Javi Evans, Logan Mankins, Zach Martin, Marshall Yanda. Didn't Martin draft like 4 years ago?
Who's this?
Zach Martin.
Yeah, he hasn't been... He got drafted in like 2000... He shouldn't be on there.
No, there's no way he is one of the top 4 guards of the decade playing 4 years.
What about TJ Lang?
They make it.
Okay.
Centers, Alex Mack, Marquise Pouncey.
That's fair.
Okay. Running backs. Ooh, man. One of these. A couple of these. Okay. Unanimous, Adrian Peterson, no doubt.
No doubter.
Then Marshawn Lynch, Frank Gore,
Marshawn Lynch,
LaShawn McCoy.
Frank Gore.
LaShawn McCoy. Jamal Charles?
Where's Jamal Charles?
He was hurt a lot, but still, he was amazing.
So this would have been after 2010?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know about Marshawn for that, but I'm trying to rattle my brain.
I know, me too. I know I'm missing guys.
Wouldn't be Steven Jackson because he'd have been before that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that has to be fair, but
it's definitely Frank Gore. Frank Gore's in there.
LaShawn McCoy, I don't know how you put him on over Jamal Charles.
He literally invested in that 1 year, but other than that,
where's DeMarco Murray?
Yeah, he had 18 season too.
And that was like in 2012.
Shit, honestly, Ezekiel Elliott or Zach Martin's on here. Why not Ezekiel Elliott?
Weren't they drafted in the same class? Or no, they were 1 year apart.
Elliott was the year before, I think. Maybe the year after, but still.
I think running backs need to be revisited. I don't know why you'd have LaShawn McCoy on there.
Yeah, and then flex, Darren Sproles. Before they even have a flex pop up, whatever.
That's weird.
That's fine, okay. Defense. Defensive ends. Calais Campbell, Cameron Jordan, Julius Peppers, J.J. Watt. Unanimous decision.
Where's Khalil Mack?
He's in there for linebackers.
Okay.
Don't worry. Defensive ends. Yeah, that's probably right.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Yeah. Tackles.
As long as you have J.J. Watt, you have the right one.
Yeah. Defensive tackles. Geno Atkins, Fletcher Cox, Aaron Donald. Donald is unanimous. And Diamond Kong Sue.
That's fair. Those are the 4 guys I was thinking of. Well, I at least, as long as Fletcher Cox, Aaron Donald, and who was the last? Ndamukong Suh. As long as they were on there, I was okay with it.
Yeah. Geno Atkins, yeah, that's fine. It's the linebackers. Luke Kuechly, Bio Wagner, Patrick Willis. Did Willis play long enough in this decade to do it?
Didn't he retire in like 2014?
I thought he retired like really early in this decade.
I thought he retired very early in the decade. But
Kuechly and Wagner are right, probably.
Yeah,
but
no, those have to be on there.
I don't know.
This team's tough.
What year did Ray Lewis retire? I feel like he played many years in
I feel like he played just as
this decade than Willis and more maybe.
Well, because he would have retired after they won the Super Bowl, I guess, in 2014.
Yeah. Did they play Willis that year? Was Willis in that game?
I think he was because, Joe Flacco was elite, baby. Joe Flacco won.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And Ray Lewis, that was his last game.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how Ray Lewis isn't on there.
Oh well. As for linebackers, well, one of these is shocker. Von Miller, Khalil Mack. Von Miller was unanimous. And then Chandler Jones. He didn't have a lot of good years, but
Consistent, and he's been there for so long. I mean, I don't hate
for
it.
the Patriots helps.
Yeah.
Cornerbacks, Patrick Peterson, Darrell Revis, Richard Sherman. Yep.
That's fair.
Darrell Revis?
Yeah.
He was
How
so
long ago-
good.
When did Darrell Revis retire?
2007. He won 2 with the Patriots.
Okay. So that's
4 years ago.
His
So.
good years were with the Jets
Oh, he was
before
the best of them.
2010,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
And then the Belichick got one more good year out of him, and then he was just toast. Can't run anymore.
Yeah. No, he was very, very slow at the end.
Safeties: Eric Berry, Earl Thomas, Eric Weddle.
Fair.
Defensive backs: Chris Harris, Tyrann Mathieu.
Chris Harris has to be on there.
Yeah,
I like that.
Tyrann Mathieu. Okay, then
Okay, Tyrann Mathieu, get out of here with that. The guy's played on 3 teams in the last 3 years. Like, if he was that good, people would have just been picking him up.
I feel like Cam Chancellor is a much better choice for that. Cam Chancellor had a huge impact on football for
How in the world does
7 years
Cam
in a row.
Chancellor not make it, but yet we have Tyrann Mathieu,
Yeah.
who...
I'm not saying it has to be Cam Chancellor, but Cam Chancellor's in there above Matthew.
He wasn't even the best player on a... Everybody talked about, the Chiefs, man, they're really good. He was on 2 of the worst secondaries that made the playoffs in the last few years.
Yeah, you forgot they had Matthew for a while.
And he was on the Texans, and they were terrible. And he was on the Cardinals, and they were terrible.
Yeah, no, he's not. That's not him.
No, he should not be on there. I do agree. I think Cam Chancellor should be
can't
on
wait because I know the one that Leighton's reading next because I found the same thing he did. I can't wait till he reads the coaches and to see the look on Drake's face.
Bill Belichick.
Okay. I can do the special teams first.
Oh, is that even a thing?
Yeah.
Justin Tucker, kicker.
I noticed a
Yep,
second ago.
unanimous.
Did you read the? Let me find it real quick. This one has a flex. Did you read the flex guy?
Yeah, Daniel Sproles.
Okay, I thought that was hilarious.
Oh, no, I like that.
There's one guy that says flex. One guy. There's a picture thread on NFL's Twitter thing.
That's how they're going to treat Christian McCaffrey in a few
yeah.
years. Like, they're going to be like, we're just going to sneak him in on the flex just because he had
Flex guy, like he's really good. Just flex him.
Okay, punters. Johnny Hecker and Shane Leckler.
Shane Leckler. I knew he had him on
Kickers,
there.
Steven Gostkowski, Justin Tucker.
I have a problem with Gostkowski. I don't think he should be. You know what I'm saying? Like, as far as think about the great kickers in the last few years that we've had. Like,
Gostkowski, he's gonna end up being like his. It could be the most.
what about Steven
points.
Jankowski?
He's gonna have the most points of any player ever, probably.
Is he really?
If he got hit last year, so maybe not. But he was on pace to pass Vinatieri ultimately.
Do you know he leads his college team? He was the he scored the most points for his college team in the history of their college team, University of Memphis.
No shit.
Yep.
Punt returners: Darren Sproles, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek played for like 3 seasons, I feel. Devin Hester played in this decade.
I was going to say,
Hold
where's Devin
on.
Hester
Kick
at?
on.
returners: Devin Hester.
There you go.
Okay, he should have just been
Not
he just
unanimous,
should've-
though.
Would have won.
Not unanimous.
Not unanimous,
Devin
no.
Hester is not unanimous.
No, the other one's Cordell Patterson. I'm a big fan of.
What? Cordero Patterson got votes over Devin Hester. It should have just said returner. Everything, Devin Hester.
Devin Hester.
Like, if there's one guy that you say he was the best at his position, Devin Hester, returning kicks, any kind of kick, is number 1.
And then coaches: Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll. Where's Andy Reid?
I was
Andy
gonna say
Reid?
Pete Carroll been good for like 8 years in a row now. Andy Reid retired. I almost died once, I think.
Hold on. There's no way Pete Carroll. Well, what are those Eagles? Here's what I'm confused on this list. It's the 2010. So are we going from 2010 to 2020?
2010 to 2020, I believe.
Or is it 19? I thought it would be 19.
Okay, well, yeah. So the
So,
19. You know what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would all those Eagles teams, I guess, Reed fall under the pre-2010s?
Most of them would have.
I guess a
But
lot of them would. Yeah,
Andy
because
Reid-
Chip Kelly was in 2013.
Well, if you think about what Andy Reid did with that Chiefs team, he took over a team that was absolutely terrible. They were drafting, I think, second in the draft, and that's whenever they took Eric Fisher. They drafted Eric Fisher.
Not
who-
first overall in the draft.
Huh?
That was first overall.
It was first overall?
Yeah.
So they were the worst team in the NFL. The next year, he went like 11-5 with Andy Reid taking over as the head coach. First season. And ever since he took over, he had Alex Smith, who was an MVP candidate at quarterback, who Alex Smith lost his job somewhere else, and they basically made the playoffs every single season. Where you look at Pete Carroll, Pete Carroll's had some clunker teams. Like last year, I know this last year they made the playoffs. The year before they did. Andy Reid's been in the playoffs almost every single year since 2010.
That would be my thing. Is you got a guy that's a perennial playoff, usually NFC, AFC championship contender. Or Chiefs are in.
Well,
NFC.
he was in NFC with the Eagles, AFC with the Chiefs.
So both leagues, he's perennial contender, and then you have one guy that had a Super Bowl team, pretty solid team, and then just some real off and on.
Where Andy Reid's consistent.
Yeah, every year.
I think I have a problem with that.
I guess
I
maybe
think it going both ways.
If you,
I just really like Pete Carroll, and he gets the job done.
You would.
He gets the job done.
No, he doesn't.
Print the article. Print the article. He gets the job done.
Is this also Pete Carroll's second stint in the NFL?
Fuck out.
Yeah, I think he had one
Before UFC? He might have.
UFC, yeah.
What year was Peyton Manning's ridiculous season?
2013, 12-13.
So it falls under the umbrella. But yet we're going to put Aaron Rodgers on
It's the year Pete Carroll routed him in the Super Bowl. That's what year it was, Jake.
Okay, well, let's look at it this way. Super
figure it
Bowls.
out.
Aaron Rodgers has one Super Bowl. Peyton has two.
That time,
But he has one in this decade.
And
he has
one in the...
is that decade 10 years?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so one in this decade.
Yeah, so you got to think guys like Reed, guys like Peyton, some of those other guys that you guys were questioning, maybe they roped them into the... 2000 to
I bet Tommy got both, though.
Peyton Manning had the best statistical season as a quarterback ever, and he gets left out of this list. That's the problem that I have here.
But see, I remember that season, that same year, Pete Carroll destroyed Peyton Manning, shut down completely. Meanwhile, Andy Reid got done at Peyton Manning twice.
Did they?
I don't know. It's in division. Peyton Manning had the best season of all time. They probably down to anybody that year.
Yeah, I don't think... Yeah, he would have been over there then. I don't understand that.
I don't know. I think either way, it's fine. It basically see more. I'm sure Mike Tomlin probably got a lot of votes for that too.
He should have.
So,
Mike Tomlin definitely should have been on there. I think he could have made Big Ben, throwing him in there for the quarterbacks, but...
Drew Brees.
Le'Veon Bell, maybe at running backs.
Well, you did Drew Brees Super Bowl. When that happened? Before?
Oh, yeah, that was well before. That was 2009.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little confused on their list. There's a lot of things that have some holes.
Cordell Patterson, man,
Cordell Patterson making a decade team whenever... get out of here with that. That's terrible. All right, so we can get back to the script now. All right, so we actually brought in some overrated, underrated players in sports history. I went ahead and I brought in a couple guys from the NFL that I thought were overrated, underrated. Mr. Shackelford brought in some fighters that he thinks, historically overrated and underrated. And then Leighton C., what did you bring today?
Athletes.
Just athletes.
Yeah,
athletes in general. Okay. Leighton C. went athletes all the way around. Yeah. And I actually have an athlete that I want to make an argument for as well. So, Mr. Shackelford, go ahead and take us off with your underrated or overrated. Which one are you going to do first?
I didn't do overrated because I don't want to dog on fighters. You know me. Fighting to me holds the highest regards. Some people will put doctors and philanthropists. I got fighters number one. Maybe runners and skateboarders / wrestlers next. Then you start getting with those hippy dippy doctors and things like that. I'm going to go with a time period. I'm going to go with a time period, a weight class, and 3 individuals who are all seen as world class, best to ever do it guys that I feel maybe there's some asterisks by them.
Hey, lay it on me. I'm ready for this.
The UFC 135-pound weight class, post Dominic Cruz. If you don't know the
Cody
story, he's one of them. Dominic Cruz, loses Uriah Faber in WEC. That was his last loss for several years. If you don't know who he is, you need to go back and watch his fights. He had a long stretch where nobody could touch him at 135. Comes to UFC, he's the first UFC 135-pound champ. ACL tear after ACL tear. He's still hoping for a return. I don't know if it ever happens. To me, he's the best 135er of all time.
I 100% agree with that.
Here's why. In the time he was gone, Renan Barão took over the reins and looked dominant, looked insane. We were all thinking, okay, when Dominic Cruz comes back, he's going to have a real hard time with this guy. USADA comes in. When does USADA come in? USADA comes in right when TJ Dillashaw fights him. TJ Dillashaw whips him. Everybody's mind's blown. They go to have another fight. Barao all of a sudden can't make 135 anymore. Then he goes, fights Joe Soto, dominant victory, keys it up for another Renan Barao fight, beats Barao worse than last time, and everybody's like, oh, what the hell? Dillashaw's the best thing ever. Goes on a string of wins till he comes back. Dominic Cruz comes back. Cruz comes in off, beats Takeyo Mizugaki after like a 3-year layoff, tears an ACL in the fight. Takes another couple years off, jumps right back in against Dillashaw, beats him. People say that it could have gone either way. I had Dillashaw, or I had I had Cruz winning.
People thought that Dillashaw won.
A lot of people were complaining that they thought he won.
I didn't think so.
I thought Cruz
I did not think
won.
so.
Then you get Garbrandt comes in. Garbrandt has the fight of his life. He does beat Cruz. I'll give him that. Then keys up for another Dillashaw battle. They do 2 Rock'em Sock'em robots in a row. Dillashaw wins, and we all know the story. Dillashaw beats him, then jumps in there with Cejudo. Cejudo knocks him dead. Then he fails for EPO. Now, this sounds like just a little back and forth. I broke it down. Whenever you had, say, we're gonna go with Garbrandt first, because he's the one that I feel like people are still. He's had 3 straight knockout losses. Mm-hmm. People are still like, "Oh, you get that Dominic Cruz Garbrandt. Nobody can ever touch him." He fought out of his mind that night.
Yes,
and you also had a guy who was on a team who had fought Cruz probably 20 times. All those WEC fights were all against Uriah Faber fight guys or Uriah Faber himself. He comes out, people think, oh, this could be the next guy. He fought a guy named Marcus Brimage. Conor McGregor's first fight in UFC was against Marcus Brimage. When Mac fought him, Brimage was 7-2. Mac dusts him. By the time Garbrandt fought him, he was 7-4. He bounces out of the UFC with a 7-7 record. Then Garbrandt wins his next fight against a dude that was 16-8-1 total record. He fought Garbrandt. Then he loses 4 straight, bounced out of the UFC. That's a common theme. The next guy, 6-3 when he fights him, goes 1-3 in his next 4.
Wow.
Next one, this is the one guy that me and you thought was really going to put a beating on Garbrandt, Thomas Almeida.
Yes.
Remember he beat Thomas Almeida? Almeida has a 21-3 record. He went 1-3. He went in a spell of 1-3.
After Garbrandt?
Yes. He loses to Garbrandt, wins 1, loses 2 more. I don't think he's in the UFC anymore. And the final guy, this was right before his fight with Cruz. This is Takeyo Mizugaki again, who's got a 23-14 record, which it's nothing to shake a stick at. I know those losses are kind of up there, but he went 3-7 in his last, 10 fights. So Garbrandt hit this weird stretch where he was beating these guys that people thought at the time were tough, but then went on long skids and bounced out of the UFC. He fights out of his mind, beats Cruz, loses to Dillashaw twice, loses to Pedro Munoz, and people are like, oh, he was 1 punch away. Well, yeah, when you stand flat-footed in the center and 2 guys throw bombs at each other, whoever lands first is going to win, and he got landed second both times. Then you think of Dillashaw, he beats Renan Barao right when USADA came in, and I looked up Renan Barao's record. I'm not even going to pull it up. He's lost something like 8 of his last 10 fights or something.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't need to be fighting anymore. I'm not a guy to say that USADA came in and wiped out guys like him, but USADA came in and wiped out guys like him. You got Johnny Hendricks, you got Barao. All of a sudden, Aldo's not looking as good anymore, which he's never been linked to anything. He's never been caught. But the other 2 guys, I don't think Hendricks has either, but Burrell certainly has. He served a suspension. Same thing. He comes in out of nowhere. You know, he's with Dane Ludwig. Oh, this is an amazing story. He beats Hennon. Oh, wait a second. Maybe Hennon's not as good as what we thought. Maybe he had a little help. Beats Joe Soto, who took a tough fight with Dillashaw on a real short notice. He's a tough guy, great grappler, not a world champion fighter. And then you just look at his record after that. He's like, bam, loses to Cruz. Cruz goes out, bam, beats Garbrandt. Bam, beats Garbrandt. Cejudo beats him up in 20 seconds. Then I've already listed the Burrell and Garbrandt. I have a weird little triangle of guys that people think were the greatest of all time while they were holding the belt.
Because everybody says Garbrandt was the best 35. Everybody says Dillashaw is the best 35. Or Dominic Cruz. Nobody chooses anybody else.
And Burrell, I feel like, kind of gets left out in the cold because he was on this insane streak and nobody was touching him. I mean, I'm trying to think. He beat up Eddie Wineland. I'm trying to think of some of the guys. Brad Pickett. He beat up some really tough guys at the time. But then again, you take a little breath, a step back, you look at their records after, and you just see there was this clear drop in performance on those guys' parts, Burrell's parts. I still liked them. I enjoyed all their fights watching. I've never been the biggest Garbrandt fan. I'll come out and say it. That performance he had against Cruz was one of the most beautiful performances you'll ever see. He dropped him a few times. He didn't get hit, but that's an out-of-your-mind fight. I just don't think you're ever going to see it again.
I 100% agree. And if you think about it, whenever all this was going down and he was kind of on his ascension to fight Cruz, you and I both talked about him, and we both thought, I don't think he's as good as what the product, what his record is saying.
We were on that bandwagon early.
Exactly. Sure. And then whenever he beats Cruz, we both kind of thought, okay, maybe this is for real. And then as soon as it was there, as soon as we thought it was for real, boom, it just went away. And I actually agree with you 100% on that. And I actually really like that take. I've never heard it broken down in that way. But whenever you break it down, it has to be somewhat true. Yeah. Because all those guys had inflated records, great records, come in, fight him. After that, they just basically fall off the map. So I think he was more of a guy who took advantage of a great situation more than an actual great fighter himself.
Exactly. And I don't think they're bad fighters, and I think they could get wins and losses. They're going to, all three of them, they're going to have more wins than they will losses when their career ends. Garbrandt, he's the one that's got to be careful because he doesn't have a huge, it's not like, I think he's like 11-3. You know, he doesn't have like 40 wins or anything like that. Good fighters, fun fighters. I like watching them. I think it was circumstantial, and now two of them have popped for. Really the one I'm giving the biggest kudos to is Garbrandt. He's the only one that hasn't popped for a steroid.
Exactly.
And he's the only one whose performance hasn't gone down significantly. He's just a rock'em sock'em robots guy who that went very well for a long time. But then when you reach those top guys, there's enough film on you. Rock'em sock'em doesn't work anymore.
No, I absolutely like that though. I've never thought of it that way. Do you have any other fighters or any other situations that you want to talk about?
You just real quick. You said overrated, underrated. I'm going to go a little bit of underrated guys. You look at BJ Penn. You look at his last few fights, and you're like, oh hell, he's got a 14-10 record. You don't understand. BJ Penn fought heavyweight for many. Like he was just taking fights against Lyoto Machida.
It's crazy to think that he fought Lyoto Machida.
And that was at heavyweight. Yeah. Lyoto was weighing 225 at the time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
BJ was fat as hell when he fought him. First guy to take Lyoto to a decision. Look at his record. Look at the guys he was fighting. He just doesn't like training. He is legitimately a guy that is so good. He just didn't train and had a little over 500 record fighting the best guys in the world. Same thing, look at Randy Couture. He bounced from 205 to heavyweight fighting all the best. The Chucks, the Titos, the Tim Sylvias. He fought anybody, Josh Barnett, anybody and everybody all those years. I'm going to look at guys like Chuck. Now, Chuck is widely known as one of the guys that blew this thing open, but a lot of people today look back and say, oh, well, these guys would beat Chuck back in the day. I don't think you would have. I think you give a 2003 to 2006 Chuck, he hangs with anybody and everybody. Same with Tito.
You think Chuck Liddell would have been the guy who beat John Jones?
I think it would have been a lot closer than people think.
I honestly think Chuck Liddell would have.
I think he was rangy enough. I think when his chin was good enough.
When Leighton's ears perk up, here's Chuck Liddell, huh?
You know, I think he would have gave John a lot of problems. I won't, Chuck's come out and said, like, I think I could beat him now. Obviously, he can't beat him now.
You can beat him now.
No, don't
Chuck?
you dare say that. Chuck whoops my ass any day of the week.
Come
don't
on, you saw
dare
that last
say it.
Chuck
Don't
fight.
you dare say it. I wouldn't punch Chuck Liddell if you paid me $1 million. Guys in that era, Rich Franklin, Tito Ortiz, these guys were beating all the best guys. Rich Franklin didn't lose to anybody that wasn't a left-handed Brazilian. He beat everybody else. Then you got to start looking at the time when I started watching, I watched back in the day, I was renting the VHSs. Then they went through that dark period where you just couldn't find it. They didn't make the VHS tapes. You couldn't buy them on pay-per-view. Come back again about 2003, 2004, Pride and UFC, it's this big battle. And I used to be on this really obscure, it was called the U Fighting, like undergroundfighting.com or something. It was this little post thing. All those guys swore the Pride guys could beat the UFC guys. Then it comes out that, a good percentage of those Pride fights are not real. They're
rigged.
Like wrestling matches,
Yes.
pro wrestling matches. And then you look at guys like Vanderlei, tough guy, had some great fights in the UFC. Maybe by the time he gets there, the Mexican supplements aren't running through the system. He's about 500 in the UFC and Bellator. There, he goes on like a 30-fight win streak, and half the guys they look like me. You can't find them. They're just professional wrestling guys. The Japan guys threw in there. I'm going to throw Fedor in that category. Really, I think Fedor and Mirko Cro Cop are probably the two most legitimate out there. But then you got the shooter box guy, the Shoguns, the Ninjas, the Vanderleis, the Takanori Gomis. You got all these guys that in Pride that people swore were the best guys that ever come along, and then they make this trip over to the UFC and Bellator and Strikeforce, and it just doesn't pan out that way.
No.
I'm a firm believer that the UFC has always had the best stable of fighters, and I don't like that talk that 2003 to 2010 marker, those guys were archaic or old age. Those guys could keep up with these guys today, I'm sure of it.
No.
And most of those guys are coaches to the guys today.
No, I absolutely agree. I actually think that as far as like the best segments you've ever done, this might be one of the best ones. Because I agree with everything that you're saying. And I honestly think that if you would have had BJ Penn's prime now, BJ Penn would have been a massive superstar.
Oh, yeah.
Even more than what he was then. And everybody would have this newfound respect for BJ Penn, where whenever you look at his record, it's like, yeah, he might have had some losses. Almost like Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt's career, where he would just basically fight anybody and he'd be kind of like the gatekeeper there.
Yeah.
Everybody loved him. Well, BJ Penn was like that, but he was much, much better, and he was doing it across 4 different weight classes, where you have a guy like Conor McGregor, even though he's dropping fights, people still say, well, he's fighting 25 pounds above his weight class.
He's not really dropping fights. He's lost one fight in the UFC to Khabib, who's 28-0. The other fight was a boxing match. It was basically a fun exhibition that we all got to see.
Yes, and BJ Penn had that mentality, though, like, hey, I'll fight anybody, anywhere, anytime, similar to Cowboy Cerrone, who's a huge star now. BJ Penn would have been right there neck and neck with those guys, and I think, honestly, people would have been talking about BJ Penn in a whole different conversation than what you look at now, looking back at BJ Penn's career. Did you see that BJ Penn got knocked out not that long ago by a guy just on the side, just on the street?
Who?
BJ Penn.
Oh, he let that guy punch him. Yeah, there's more video of that where apparently that guy started the fight with BJ Penn in the establishment. I guess BJ jumped on him, choked him unconscious type thing. They pulled him off, and that guy kept wanting to fight. So BJ put his hands down and said go ahead, punch me, and dude knocked him unconscious. But then I guess BJ got up and then beat him up again. So don't look at BJ now. Go back, look at the guy. He's a dude that he should not be fighting now. He's clearly got some issues going on, but look at him. He's one of the best to ever do it.
No, I absolutely agree there. Anything else before we move off of MMA for this one?
No, sir.
Okay. Latency. What do you have for us today? Overrated, underrated, all-time athletes.
Since we both have just athletes in general, can we go back and forth with these, or?
Yeah. You want to go ahead and you can go first.
Okay, I go first. So one guy I always think of is overrated. I think immediately, okay, obviously all-time overrated athletes, and somebody just did the NFL 100 Decades team over by receivers. And Terrell Owens is so underrated. He was not even.
I was hoping you weren't going to say overrated.
No, because he is so incredibly underrated. Not for this decade, but last decade still he wasn't on that all decades team. He wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. He wasn't on the NFL top 2 of all time list last year that came out. I mean, the guy is third all time in receiving yards, third all time in receiving touchdowns, and I think he's fourth of on receptions.
So if you think about it, at the worst, you could rank him third all-time wide receivers.
Yeah, top 2 of all time. To me, undoubtedly, are Jerry Rice, Jenny Moss, and Terrell Owens.
I 100%
like
agree.
Every statistic, analytic ever says those 3 guys. But because Terrell Owens was bad off the field for a couple years there in Philadelphia, and then bad on the field in Dallas, and spiking the ball to San Francisco, all that stuff, people just don't like Terrell Owens.
Mooning the Packer fans?
Yeah, people just don't like Terrell Owens. So, that's why he was a First Ballot Hall of Famer, but there's just no reason why he shouldn't be considered in the top 4 or 5 good receivers of all time.
And he played that Super Bowl on one leg. Everybody says
he had a broken leg.
Yes, he had a broken leg. Everybody comes out and says, "T.O., well, he wasn't a good teammate. He wasn't a good locker room guy." I don't know what's a better locker room guy than going out on a broken leg and still complaining that you didn't get the ball enough.
Yeah, trying to drag your quarterback back to the huddle because his fat ass is throwing up.
Yeah.
You're 20 games into the season and you aren't in shape enough to play an entire game. Come on.
Yeah, Ronnie Lott cut his finger off to play a playoff game. I thought he was a hero for that. Dylan picking the broken leg, which, I mean, comparable to a cut off finger, is pretty comparable.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
No, I absolutely agree with that. Terrell Owens still had a ridiculous stat line. I kind of want to pull that one up. Pull up that stat line while I go ahead.
For me, and for a guy that kind of was a young guy while watching that arc happen, he was the first guy that I heard people being like, he's just a spoiled ass superstar and he's bullcrap. He, in today's game, I don't even think he, other than his skills, he probably doesn't even make front page news.
No.
But then while he was doing the stuff, going to the Star and falling down and writing stuff, pulling the thing out from the goalpost, that was an insanely huge deal at the time. Now it don't even make front page news.
No,
it would be a total different light on him now than it was then.
Like whenever he was doing the sit-ups out in his driveway, that wouldn't have even been a story compared to what we have with a lot of the wide receivers in the NFL today.
Okay, so Terrell Owens, Super Bowl, broken leg, 9 catches, 122 yards, no touchdowns.
122 yards. I knew he had 9 catches. I knew that. I knew it was
on a broken leg.
He didn't play at all in the playoffs before that.
No, he came out just for the Super Bowl because he wanted to win the Super Bowl.
And he was still in better shape than Donovan McNabb.
Yes. Hey, man, he was hitting the sit-ups, the bicep curls out in his driveway. That's what it's all about. Man.
And that's what he was known for. He was a fitness machine. I mean, he's like Deion Sanders. You look at him now, and he still looks like he's a prime athlete.
No, I agree. I actually do think that Terrell Owens is one of the most underrated athletes in NFL history, honestly, because he wasn't even in the NFL top 100, was he?
No, they left him out of the 100.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, no, he was not in that. That was like 15 years ago now.
And I like that.
I watched that the other day, actually.
And he was one of those wide receivers that it didn't matter who his quarterback was. Like early in his career, whenever he was with Steve Young, and he had he had to deal with Jerry Rice taking catches away from him. Yeah. He was still putting up 1,000-yard seasons. Yes, he was playing with Steve Young, but that doesn't matter. And then he goes to the. Everywhere he had success. He had success with the Cowboys. He had success with the Eagles. You don't find that many wide receivers that post 1,000-yard receiving years for multiple teams. And off the top of my head, Terrell Owens did it with 3 different teams.
You got to wonder how much of an impact Jerry Rice had on his career, because Jerry Rice was absolutely known for conditioning.
Yes.
That was his thing. Getting to play with a dude like that your first couple of years an amazing thing. And I can just imagine. Can you imagine if it was Jerry Rice dragging Steve Young back to the huddle, who's throwing up 10 yards down the field, what the story would be as opposed to Donovan McNabb and
With Terrell Owens.
It would be a total different story.
No, I agree. What a hero.
It'd be he was a hero. It would be Steve Young and his that's Joe Montana in the Skechers commercial. I messed up there. I was about to crack up to Skechers, but it was the wrong guy.
Skechers, they like the all-time greats. All right, my most overrated NFL player of all time has to be Troy Aikman.
Yep.
I gotta leave on this.
Go back to episode 1 of the show, and you'll hear
The very first episode, he rags on one of the best quarterbacks of all time.
He's not one of the best of all time. All right, so Troy Aikman. What is the excuse for Troy Aikman? Why are his stats not good?
different league.
Different year, right?
Yep.
I did the research. There were 18 of the 37 guys. Did you realize that he was 38th in passing yards in NFL history? 38th. That's not very good.
Hold on.
That's pretty good.
It's a different ball game. They ran the ball 3 out of 4 plays every time.
Leighton C. just said the 3 best wide receivers in NFL history, Jerry Rice, T.O., and Randy Moss, all played in the same. They all played whenever
it was later in the era.
Whenever Troy Aikman was still in the NFL.
Rice would be the only one that actually played.
Out of the 37 guys that have more passing yards than Troy Aikman, 18 were drafted before him.
Okay.
That's half of the guys that have more passing yards than him. So they played in the same era of football or a worse era for passing the ball. Y.A. Tittle played in like the 1950s, has more passing yards than Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman. I'm just going to compare his stats to John Elway, Dan Marino, Brett Favre. All 3 guys who played in that same era. Brett Favre was only drafted 2 years after Troy Aikman. So these are all guys that are comparable to Troy Aikman. John Elway only has 19,000 more passing yards than Troy Aikman. John Elway, 19,000 more passing yards. He has 135 more touchdowns, and he has 16 more fourth quarter comebacks. Troy Aikman only has 14 fourth quarter comebacks. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why he only has 14. It's because his team was so good around him. And if you just look at the sheer numbers,
Emmitt Smith is the reason why.
No, that definitely did help. But if you look at like Dan Marino is only 4,000 yards shy of having exactly double the amount of passing yards than Troy Aikman. Played in the same exact era. One guy won 2 Super Bowls and played for the Dallas Cowboys. The other guy was only in 1 Super Bowl in his whole life. Take a guess. How many more passing touchdowns would you think Dan Marino has over Troy Aikman?
Oh, fuck. Hundreds?
255.
Yeah.
255 more passing touchdowns than Troy Aikman. He has a higher quarterback rating, and he has 18 more fourth quarter comebacks. Brett Favre, he got drafted 2 years after Troy Aikman. He has 343 more passing touchdowns and 39,000 more yards. That is more than double.
That is a lot.
That is absolutely crazy.
With Dan Marino, though.
Vinny Testaverde has more passing yards than Troy Aikman.
Here's what I'm going to say about this. Name those quarterbacks. Elway,
Dan Marino, Brett Favre. And Vinny Testaverde has more passing yards.
Well, that'll make my argument sound even better. How many Super Bowls do those guys have combined?
3.
How many Super Bowls does Aikman have?
2.
3.
3? Oh, yeah, he did have 3, didn't he?
Yes, 3.
Okay.
Who was winning the Super Bowls in the time of those guys' prime?
Troy Aikman.
So how can... The only reason those guys played longer and stats are better is because they extended their careers to get past that block of time when the Cowboys were so good. I will agree with you. His stats may not be there, but he was the Tom Brady. He was the Tom Brady to Peyton Manning at that time. He did what he had to do to win games. He was a guy that struggled with concussions, that hung in there. Dallas was known for having a big-ass O-line, having a great running back, and having a great wide receiver. In the end, they had 2, Dion called a little pass to, and they had a killer defense. I will say this. There's no way he is an overrated quarterback. He was one of the greatest of all time because his teams were the greatest of all time, and he was the leader. All those other guys that have all these stats more than him, or because they had to stick around longer just to get out of his limelight. When you think of that late 80s, early 90s, you got like Montana, Young, Aikman, and then you get to Elway. Marino never won anything. Testaverde was a good quarterback that never won anything. Although my family were huge Cowboys fans, so I watched a lot of Cowboys games. I do love Troy Aikman. You could never in your life convince me that he's an overrated quarterback. Also, I'll throw Favre in there. Favre had one Super Bowl, and even when he was playing against all those guys, he was known as the gunslinger of the group. He was always a gunslinger, even when they had solid running teams. But he only won one Super Bowl, and he played twice as long as Aikman.
I actually have a list of all the things that Troy Aikman was number one in Cowboys history today. Dak Prescott already has exactly half as many passing yards as him. Games started, games won, and games lost, and he leads in completions and attempts and interceptions. No other thing. Other than just acquiring stats and being there for the longevity and playing in games, does not lead anything in Cowboys history.
Played, I got 89 to 2000.
Yes.
6-time Pro Bowl, Super Bowl MVP, 3-time champ, Walter Payton Man of the Year. You're barking up the wrong tree. This is a bad take.
I don't think it's that bad of a take, honestly.
So if you're wondering why this part got a little choppy, Drake's face is red as the devil's dick. He started flaring his legs. He kicked the microphone unplugged. He's so fired up about Troy Aikman, he kicked the microphone unplugged.
This is a great segue to the next
I'm confident that Troy Aikman is one of the best of all time, and Drake is confident he is not. Leighton seems 50-50 on the issue.
Yes, he's a tad elevated, but he was very good.
Would you compare him? To me, he's the Tom Brady from 89 to 2000. I mean, he really gave the reins over to Tom Brady. He showed him what to do. You take a team.
Don't mess it up.
Yes, don't mess it up. Don't put your foot in the way. Don't be more than what you think you are. Throw it when you got to throw it. Run it when you're supposed to.
I've always
Tom Brady had the 50 touchdown season.
Yes,
with Randy Moss.
Now, well, you got to think, what year? When did they win their first Super Bowl? 2002?
2 or 3.
2 or 3. I remember I was in high school.
I think it was 2001.
A little side note.
2001.
We've been dropping little stories about one of our friends here. He actually claimed that the NFL was rigged the first year that the Patriots won because of September 11th. He was like, early in the season, if the Patriots win, or no, he waited till like the last playoff game. If the Patriots win, the NFL's rigged. I'll never watch again. He watched for several more years later. But then you're talking a different era of football. I mean, you talked about Dak Prescott. These dudes are just slinging it. The football back then was not football that you're watching now.
No, I understand that, but I just don't understand how we have a guy where the stats are that far apart from each other and they played in the same era. I mean, we're talking 19...
Who was that?
John Elway and Favre and Marino.
Yeah,
almost double.
I would agree that those guys were much better passing quarterbacks and definitely played more of a passing style. I mean, there's that 30 for 30, I think, on Elway where he was going to be a baseball player. I mean, those dudes most definitely were bigger passers than Aikman. But I'll always hang my hat on the fact that he was the guy winning the championships when they were not.
Their teams were so good.
The style of football was different. You know, you put those guys on those teams in today's league, I'm sure they do better than those Cowboys teams do. Just because the Cowboys were big, they were slow, and they ran the ball. You put that now, it'd be like putting in that one Baltimore Ravens team against these guys. The game's just different, you know. They would have the ball for 15 minutes and maybe get 3 points, and then you put out the run and gun guys have the ball for 25 seconds and scored a touchdown. It's just a different era of football. Hard to compare them. I'll always say it's a bad thing.
I disagree on that. I always say the Bears have never had a great quarterback in their history because they've never had a 4,000-yard passer and they've never had a 30-touchdown guy. If they had Troy Aikman for those years that he was his elite, they still wouldn't have a 4,000-yard passer, and they would have never had a guy who threw over 30 touchdowns. Troy Aikman only threw over 21.
You know, it's funny you bring up the Bears. When before you sent a text about that, I was thinking I would really like to do one on my most hated sports guy of all time, and that's Jay Cutler.
I hate Jay Cutler.
I really thought one of you guys were going to bust out a Jay Cutler, most overrated guy of all time.
Underrated.
You know what Jay Cutler has?
No, overrated. There's no way he's
Hey,
underrated.
Jay Cutler has more passing touchdowns and passing yards than Troy Aikman.
Than a lot of people. Than
Yes,
a
he
lot
does.
of people. I will never like him because he was dogging on Kyle Orton. He's like, oh, I blow this guy out of the water. He can't throw it 20 yards. Then the Bears go there and just absolutely mush Denver at home. And I was like, I hate this guy.
Yes.
And then a couple years later, he comes to Chicago. Pretty much ends football for me. I was really hoping one of you guys would bust out a most overrated of all time, Jay Cutler.
No, I think he's
Instead, you attack one of the heroes of the NFL.
of your lifetime. I went from one extreme to the other. Leighton C., what else do you have for overrated, underrated?
Overrated as hell, Derek Jeter.
Oh, very overrated. Very
so-
overrated.
Captain?
Yes.
Yeah, so he only had 2 seasons of
Yeah,
20.
I'm looking at the back of your laptop with the Red Sox sticker. We had to know a Yankee was coming.
So anyway, 2 seasons, 2 out of 20 seasons, more than 20 home runs. None in his last 12 years of playing. 310 average. That's why he's not a bad. That's why he's a bad baseball player, but he's definitely not this.
People think he's the greatest shortstop of all time.
Yeah, he's not even close to that. He can't play defense at all.
He can't beat Ozzie, I know that.
Miserable defender. Not that good of a hitter power wise. Slaps the ball, so right field, left field. That's fine. Great leader, great clubhouse guy, but not greatest of all time. Not even close to that. Not a top 100 player of all time.
No, I absolutely agree with that. I have another one. Overrated running back, Marcus Allen. 9 seasons of 200 or more carries. Played 16 seasons in the NFL. He had 3 seasons where he went over 900 yards. He won 1 MVP, automatically gets put into the Hall of Fame the year that he retires. Then as soon as he's eligible, he gets into the Hall of Fame. All he did was play 16 seasons. Like, he just hung around. He's basically like, he was Frank Gore before Frank
I was
Gore.
going to say, isn't there a dude still playing right now named Frank Gore?
Yes.
Gore played for Green Bay with Brett Favre.
No,
right?
he was No, he was with the 49ers for ever.
Okay.
You're thinking of Ahmad Green.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind.
Yeah, no, but I think he was drafted the same year as Brett Favre. He's just been hanging around ever since then. That's probably where you're getting the comparison.
Which goes back to the old, is it better to burn out or fade away? Would you rather be an Antonio Brown that had 2 good seasons, makes the NFL top 100 of the 2010s, and then is most famous for trying to punch out cops in his front yard? Or would you rather be a Chris Carter, who no one talks about now,
No.
who was one of the greatest of all time, played for Minnesota forever? Is it better to burn out or fade away? The existential grunge rock question.
That is true.
Are you Pearl Jam or are you Nirvana?
No,
Too soon.
but I was going to compare him to Steven Jackson, who's probably might not even make the Hall of Fame. Had 8 seasons, very similar to Marcus Allen, where he had the 8 seasons of 200 more carries. 9 of those seasons, though, were 800 or more yards. All of them were consecutive. Had one of the best running back runs we've ever seen as far as 1,000-yard seasons consecutively. Put together 8 of them. And wasn't even mentioned, really, for the Hall of Fame this upcoming year. Anything else that you have?
One guy I had real quick was Blake Griffin. This is just a real quick one. Middle of last season, he was averaging 20 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists a game.
Yes.
Only 2 guys have done that ever. Him and Wilt Chamberlain.
Wow.
So, Blake Griffin is just a dunker.
No, I agree with that. Speaking of Wilt Chamberlain, you can make the argument that Wilt Chamberlain is the greatest basketball player of all time.
You could.
Some of his stat lines.
I'm not
They
going
were
that
like
route,
50 and 23 or something like that.
Yeah. 50 points in the season. That was 80 rebounds, I think. To me, insane.
My feet are getting crazy.
Drake's
Man. I
legs
keep pulling on all the cords.
You gotta settle them down.
All right. So, do you guys want to go ahead and transition to the tweets of the week? Mr. Shackelford said that he has an absolute good one for the UFC this upcoming week. What was your tweet of the week?
But we kind of got 2. We got the 2. The one you're gonna cover. The worst tweet of the week. I'm gonna go worst tweet of the week. Whitney Cummings. She says, the CDC said especially people with mustaches should wear a mask, not because of corona, but just because you look ridiculous. This is bullshit.
That's terrible. That's a terrible take.
The funniest one I think of all time is a troll job by an account. Everybody knows Ariel Helwani. This dude has spelled his account as close to Ariel Helwani as possible. It's a troll account.
It's Ariel Helvani, where it's two V's back to back.
Two V's, and so it'll make your eyes go cross trying to figure it out. He actually got me for about 2.2 seconds. I looked at it, retweeted it, and then there was something else on his page that I looked at. I was trying to find a video, and then I was like, no, this is the fake guy. Retweeted it back that said this guy needs beaten like a club. So he did get me for a second. It says, breaking. Dana White and Vladimir Putin have reached an agreement on travel arrangements for UFC lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov to come to the United States. He will fight Tony Ferguson. It's happening, folks. Hashtag 249. We'll go on schedule April 18th. At that moment, when I looked him up, he had half the Twitter followers of me. He had like 340. Now he's only got like 650, still a touch less than me. He's had 20,000 likes on this, 3.4 thousand retweets, and like 940 comments. The most notable one is from Uncle Dana himself, the guy that we were just praising at the beginning of the show. He put, absolutely not true. This card is happening, but Team Khabib is out. I will announce the entire card tomorrow.
So Dana actually replied to this guy?
Dana replied to him. Dana's reply got 7.5 thousand likes, 1,000 retweets, and 708 comments. Probably all of people telling him he's a dumbass and he got trolled. Ariel Helvani, troll job of the century.
He actually got more retweets and favorites than Dana White himself.
He did. He did. The dude dominated the troll game this week.
No, that was good. That was good. My tweet of the week is actually pretty terrible. So the Boston Globe tweeted out, the Kraft family used the Patriots plane to shuttle 1.7 million N95 masks from China to Boston. Pretty cool, right? He used his own team plane.
Let's do a slight backstory on these masks. My work, we live in a tiny podunk town. I work at a tiny hospital. Our hospital can hold no more than like 17 people. We are reusing masks. We are reusing. These aren't the N95. These are the basic masks that you would laugh at on a child's Dr. Halloween costume. They're thinner than those. We are reusing those. We are reusing our gowns. These plastic bag looking gowns, we have been told to spray them down with essentially fake Lysol cleaner to reuse until those absolutely cannot be reused anymore. Then we are to go to the N95 masks. And you see these cool signs of people wearing like masks that they made at home, the cloth ones.
Yes.
We have been instructed we cannot wear those until we are absolutely, positively, completely out of masks.
That's crazy.
I'm a small hospital. Imagine being in New York, Chicago, your hospital, other hospitals. This is a tremendous nice thing the Crafts have done. Not nice. This is a tremendous this is an amazing thing they're doing on their own planes.
Yes.
Now cut back to your tweet.
Okay. So this tweet got quote tweeted by Jemele Hill. Do you know Jemele Hill? She was on ESPN. What was her show? It was terrible.
She was on several things with that other guy.
It was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
The
it was
6. The show called The 6.
I think it was
5 o'clock
6.
here.
Yeah, it was 5 o'clock here. It was like prime time ESPN slot.
I used to watch her at work. She was one of the ones I used to watch when I watched cable, like on my lunch break.
Do you like her?
Nah, I wasn't really big into her.
So she's been in trouble multiple times for
race baiting?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, just making sure.
100% has been in trouble for that. So she quote tweets this, and she plays a little us versus them. She quotes and says, "This is where I remind people that Robert Kraft is friends with Donald Trump and gave to his campaign. It's incredible the Kraft family is doing this, but I hope they understand their money helped empower their friend."
She's an idiot.
This is not only idiotic. This goes beyond her normal race, like the race baiting thing that she does. That you said she got in trouble for a ton. This is completely what's wrong with a lot of those. And I hate to use the mainstream media thing. this is what's wrong with those guys. They try to make something more than what it is. There are legitimately doctors, nurses, x-ray techs, CNAs, housekeepers, dietaries. There are people that work all throughout the medical field right now that are going to work nervous because they don't have the protection that they need from this invisible fog that kills everybody's grandparents.
Donald Trump's been referring to it as an invisible enemy.
That's a great way to put it. This may be the most bonehead tweet of all time. I would love to sit down with her and be like, do you realize that not only what you said is completely stupid, idiotic, and it makes you look like you're trying to bully these people, and you're in no position to bully anyone, but just the people that actually need these things are not looking at this like, oh man, this is so much better for Donald Trump's campaign.
No,
we're looking at this like, hey, I don't have to wear that children's Halloween costume mask and spray it with Lysol for another 85 patients. I just get to get a fresh one.
Yes, the way that they're supposed to be used.
It's idiotic and ignorant, and it's tough to get both of those.
No,
that's one of the worst tweets I've seen in a long time.
That's the worst. That goes down as probably the worst tweet I've ever seen from a person with a blue check mark. Because if you think about this, at what point does this help Donald Trump? I don't feel like it's empowering anybody except for the people that are actually wearing the masks, the people who are, treating the patients. And if you think about where this is the worst, it's in the New England area, New York City, and those people appreciate it. It doesn't matter if it comes in and it says, if they're all red masks that say MAGA on the front.
If Kim Jong-un started flying over masks to help us out, we don't care.
Yes, we would be very
if it's protecting us from it.
I absolutely agree. I don't see how you connect the dots on this one to say, like, 2 plus 2 equals 4 here. This one's completely off. As far as worst takes I've ever seen, you said that my Troy Aikman take is bad.
No, this is way worse.
This is on a whole different level.
This is a different realm. This is different.
Probably the worst tweet I've ever seen in my life. All right, so you two did watch The Platform yesterday. Leighton C. sent it out to us, gave us a homework assignment, said that we need to watch it. I got as far as opening it up. I looked at it, I read it, and I'm like, I don't think I could. I just know myself. I can't watch this movie. Go ahead, give us your guys' full breakdown. Give us your review on The Platform.
So what's about, without really trying to spoil anything or seeing the trailer, is there's a vertical prison. And
a vertical prison?
Yeah, it's a prison, but it's a tower.
So it's like a high-rise.
A high-rise prison. And somewhere in this humongous building that has well over 200 floors, the actual cells, and the cells are just squares, probably like 15 by 15, 120 squares, and 2 people per floor, and in the middle of the floor there's a giant square hole. Well, every single day what happens is a company or somebody up top, they prepare food,
okay,
and make an insane amount of food. It looks great, and then the platform lowers down through every room. And it's there for like so many minutes. And then people eat off that. And they eat and eat and eat. And it goes on to the next one. But eventually, Drake, what happens?
All the food's gone.
It runs out of food. So in the bottom level, it's like a thinning process. People will eventually just either A, kill who they're with and eat them, or kill themselves. And they'll thin out the prison system. That's my theory on why it is, or how it is. And so every month you change floors. And you know where you're going to. You can be on 1, you can be on 202, you can be on 177.
So there's like
depends.
170 floors in this?
They're well over 200 floors. I don't say how many floors.
You never figure out. They go up to over 300.
They go over 300
I think I remember is 338 or something like that.
Well, let's not spoil the movie in here, but
shit.
Well over 300
Spoiler.
floors.
When you do the...
hey, no. You can spoil because we warned you. We warned you at the beginning.
There you go.
Okay.
If you want to watch it, watch it. If not, just get ready.
But well over 300 floors. And the main character is in there to get his degree, had no idea what to expect. And I don't know. From the beginning of the movie, I immediately thought, oh my god, this is disgusting. But I'm just going to watch it because it's really interesting as hell. I don't know, so what do you think about it?
Is it based on a true story?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I was kind of on the same realm of what Drake was. Like when I saw it, I was like, I went ahead and watched it all. It did keep me intrigued for the most part till probably the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes where I saw where it was going.
Yeah, sad. I didn't like it.
Pretty cool. A pretty cool little thing. One thing I don't think did you say where they like every month they're on a different floor?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the I thought that was cool. Every month they're on a different floor. So 1 month he's doing okay. He's on an upper floor. He's still getting some food that's pretty picked over. Starts to get a little weird. Then they go
to floor like 177.
Yes, they go to a bad floor. I think it was 171.
So 171's bad, and there's still 170 people below them?
You don't know that, though. You don't know that. Well, if you times 2 by... You don't know that.
Yeah.
His partner tells him a floor, hey, I was on like 138, and there was still stuff under me. That was a bad floor. Well, then they go to 171... starts to get interesting. It's an interesting movie. It's pretty cool. It is gross. I would say it's kind of a gory movie. Even when they're on,
in it.
Yeah, there's cannibalism. Even when they're on floor 38, his roommate's an old man. The way he's eating with his hands grossed me out pretty bad.
Can you pick up a food been touched by 74 people? At that point,
yeah,
74 people.
You do 38 times 2.
Do you think this was the initial incubator for the coronavirus?
It could have been. It could have been. Well, then the movie starts to go a little kind of cool and kind of wonky to me was there's a part where he starts to hallucinate because he's getting hungry. He's on a bad floor. He's starting to hallucinate, and he's starting to get these visions of these other people. And I won't tell you where it goes because I don't feel like we've spoiled too much here. But it goes... The ending is pretty cool. I won't say I dislike the ending, but I won't say I liked the ending. Yeah. It leaves you at a hanger. You almost know what happens to him, but you don't know what happens to him, and it leaves you at a hanging spot.
So they're coming out with a platform too.
No, I don't think. Well, they could. I mean,
same thing, just different people.
Well, say she makes it to the top, and then we have a whole thing of So the way it ends. There's a leading this whole time to where you think the ending, what he thinks is going to happen, is there's going to be something good happen. I tend to think that it's going to be a bad ending. I lean towards the bad because the people that set this building up have already showed you they don't care through the one of his in one of his people through there. There's just no care. The way they think the ending is going to happen, the characters, it just isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
I would say, what's your scale? I'll do mine first. You got a 3-dip scale, which I think is the hardest dip scale of all time. Well, because you could give something a 1.5 that you liked, and all of a sudden it's a 50% movie. I'm not going to give it a 2. I'm going to go with a 1.6 dip ratio. I'm leaning it towards the I liked it upper scale. I'm not pulling it down to below a 1.5 or below. I liked it. Suspenseful, very gory, kind of a mind screw a little bit from here to there. Cool watch. I think in this little pandemic we got going on, it could be something you hit up. We sit in here another couple weeks, a lot of people are going to be watching it.
Yeah, it's in the 1.6 range for sure. I'm going to give it a 1.4 probably. Because just after we talked about, we started hallucinating, and then the ending, I just absolutely hated the ending. as soon as he decided to go down, I was like, no, I wanted to see him finish that out the last 2 months, see what happened there. Yeah. But I did not like when the plan started, not like that at all. Did not like the hallucination stuff. That part was just stupid. They didn't need it. 1.4 dips.
So this is definitely a movie that's going to screw with your head because just from reading it and looking at the picture of
what's the trailer,
I immediately thought this movie's going to screw my head. That's the only reason I didn't watch it.
2 minutes, I was like, "There's no way Drake watched this whole movie."
See, better than that, I watched with my girlfriend. I didn't tell her what it was about before I watched it. Watch the movie. God. It looks really good. And watching it, and she's like, "Okay, they're in the room." And then she went down, and she was like, "Are they going to fucking eat that?" And then, she goes, "Oh my god, I'm not watching this."
Yeah, that part grossed me out more than the actual gore. The watching people. Have you ever? I'm sure you've seen Hostel, right?
I've never seen Hostel.
You never seen Hostel?
I don't want to watch Hostel.
It was a very gory movie, but
it.
there's a part where a guy is eating a salad with his bare hands on a train, and he's like, "I think we need to go back to our primal instincts of using our hands." And him just eating, putting his fingers to his mouth, eating, just was one of the most disgusting parts of the entire movie. I never saw Hostel 2. I stomached my way through Hostel 1, and it weirded me out traveling from there on out.
Have you seen Green Room?
Yes. Hey, that's one of my
Netflix.
most underrated movies of all time.
Green Room?
The same guy. But what happened is this band is coming, either starting a tour, coming home from a tour, something like that. I'm playing with one more show, and it's at a. Is that a bar, or is it just at like a convention center?
It's out in the backwoods ass hill mountainy region, but it's like a club.
Are you sure this isn't the Hills Have Eyes?
A club.
It's close to that, except with Nazis.
Yeah, it's a neo-Nazi club, and then basically you see Hostile.
Yes.
So you can imagine where shit can go from there.
Yeah,
it's that
Green
movie.
Room?
That movie
Green
though
Room.
is a very good movie, and R.I.P. to the actor.
It's the Green Room or the Green Inferno. I'm not sure which one.
It's the Green Room.
Okay, yeah, the Green Inferno. It's very similar again, but it's more like what would you just ask him?
Green Room.
No, Hills Have Eyes.
Eyes.
It's more similar to that than Hostile.
Green Room,
Hostel.
it's 2.8 dips. It's a very good movie. Underrated. The actor, and the main actor actually is the dude that passed away. What's his name, Leighton? He was in a bunch of very good movies. He was in Odd Thomas. He was in Star Trek. I'm sorry. What is his name? He actually died of some
William
weird...
Shatner.
No. His Jeep, he went to check his mail, and his Jeep kicked out a park and ran him over.
Oh, wow.
It was one of those
I heard about this.
It was one of those Jeep recalls, and he ended up getting squished and died. I've got to look his name up.
Driver. Yeah, I remember that, and that happened.
Oh, shoot.
Anyway, though, but yeah, Platform. It was a movie. How did it take you to figure out that they weren't speaking the words that they were saying?
What?
You not notice that?
What? Say it again.
So the movie's dubbed. Like they aren't saying English.
Okay, no, yes. Within about 1 minute, I was like, this feels like an old cheap action movie where it's dubbed. They're not really saying
Like Kung
the words.
Fu?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
No,
I
know
within a
this.
minute. Like
I noticed because
that, you know what word made me think of it? Obviously.
Yeah.
He kept saying, I was like, what? That's not what he said. Like, why is he?
You know, I figured out because I watch anything with subtitles on, and subtitles when it translated wouldn't be what they were saying in English. So we watch it, I'd be like, wait, what? That's not right. And I'm like, hold on. They're not saying the words, but it's the best dubbing of anything I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, no,
like you get used to it super fast, and it's like, okay, that's just how it is.
I
not like
won't say you
Godzilla.
get used to it. It
not like
it
Godzilla.
clearly left a weirdness throughout the whole. It almost made it more of a it made it more.
Okay, yeah.
Had they actually been saying the words, it wouldn't have been as a psychologically thriller type thing. I'm gonna go 1.6 dips. Green Room, the guy's name is Anton Yelchin. Imogen Poots is in there. Patrick Stewart, Aaliyah Chawla. You guys would recognize all those
Patrick
people.
Stewart is in Star Trek.
Yes. Oh, yeah, he's in Star Trek too. Green Room, 2.8 dips. I'm calling it. Watch the Platform, then watch the Green Room. I believe it's also on Netflix.
Yeah, Platform only 9 minutes long. Just force your way through that. I mean, it's quarantine. You're at home and just force your way through that.
I watched it because I couldn't sleep last night. I lay down and I was just like, I feel like I got a big test tomorrow I'm not prepared for. Gotta watch it.
You gotta watch it. See, I just knew that movie would mess with me way too much, just from reading it. So anything else before we dive out of here for episode 140?
Didn't cover it all. Days are getting longer.
Days are getting longer for sure.
Nights are getting shorter.
Yeah. Why didn't this happen during daylight savings time? You know, like whenever the days were shorter, like then you could just
Sleep it off.
sleep it all off.
Just through quarantine.
Yeah, we'd be hibernating.
I don't know. But hey, Trump said that he hopes to get people or get sports back on the field with no fans by mid-July. Hopefully. So, that's still 3 months away.
That's a
There we go.
long time for
3
me.
months.
The world may be burnt down by then. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll find out.
All the latencies of the world are just sitting at home going bananas right now.
Yeah, no, this is not good. All right, and on that note, for Drake, for Leighton, and Mr. Shackelford, Dippers, as always, stay saucy.